Last week we started talking about the mysticism of the Hebrew alphabet, and we started talking about what the power of the letters are, and how the idea is that the Jewish letters are sort of almost like the DNA building blocks of the world, and if you know how to combine the blocks properly, just like if you know how to combine the elements properly, you can build all sorts of things, whether it be cures for cancer or nanotubes that will, fix, leaks in your car tire forever and ever without you even knowing about it. All kinds of amazing things that are being invented today by people putting the right pieces together. If you're able to put the right letters of the alphabet together, you can control a lot of phenomenon. And that was what we discovered last week. And we started with the letter Aleph. So we did one letter last week. This week we are going to blow right by that, and we're going to hit at least 4 letters. So yeah, you better buckle up. You better buckle up. Okay. So the first letter that we're going to discuss today is the letter Bet. The letter Bet is the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet. The key words for this letter are blessing, bracha, creation, bria, and the ideas of duality and plurality, right? Because Bet, the numeric equivalence of Bet is 2. 2 is the first number that is a plural number. You go from oneness, unity, godliness, which we talked about last week, being, God being one and being the total unifier, not just one as in like one as opposed to many, but being the one, the everything that is included in that. And then now we're talking about duality. We're talking about the number 2 and plurality, which is actually interesting because there's 2 concepts. There's a concept of miracle, which is something from nothing, right? There's nothing here, and I say, let there be a large, gigantic bottle of water here. And suddenly there's like a 40-gallon bottle of water, right? That's an amazing miracle. And then you have what's called bracha, blessing, so where you have a little and it becomes a lot. So you plant a little bit in your field, whether you plant tiny little seeds and suddenly these amazing crops or trees are growing out of it, or you have a bumper crop, you have a store and you're selling objects at a retail level and suddenly you have this amazing month, right? So that's not something from nothing, but that's a lot from a little. That's the concept of blessing. Blessing is when you go from a little to a lot. It's actually a lot easier in this world to get blessing than to get miracles, right? Why? Why is it easier to get? We give each other blessings all the time. We don't generally ask for miracles. We're not supposed to pray for a miracle to reverse reality or whatever it is. Why is that? Why is blessing a lot more common than miracles? The answer is because God can hide out in blessing much easier than he can hide out in miracles. Meaning, the reason why God created the world is for us, humanity. We're the only people who have free will. We're clearly sort of the alpha creature on this world. And because we have free will, we have the ability to determine what's right from wrong and to make proper moral choices. In the animal kingdom, they're not struggling with moral choices, right? The bear sitting at the side of the stream, ripping salmon as they're on their way up to spawn, out of the water and eating them and throwing them away. He's not sitting there with like a guilty conscience saying, maybe I should be a vegetarian, right? Like, these poor salmon, they've got millions of children to spawn in their belly right now. I'm just going to slap them out of the water and eat them. I feel bad. They don't have that kind of dilemma. There is no such thing like that in the animal world, and definitely not in the plant world, but there is that in the human world. So our moral dilemmas are sort of actually our challenges, and the fact that we are faced with moral challenges is our very raison d'etre. That's why we're here. Right? God did not need more rhinoceroses. Well, actually, maybe rhinoceroses because they're going extinct, but that's our fault again through our moral choices. People are choosing to kill out rhinoceroses for ridiculous reasons, for profit of the horn. It's absurd what's going on to the rhinoceros today. But that's a different conversation for a different time. I think there's a lecture by PETA down the road. You guys are welcome to go there and learn more about the rhinoceros. But God did not need more squirrels. God did not need more, grasshoppers. God needed that there be this creatures in the world who would struggle with moral choices and actually come to a place where they could properly choose right over wrong and then get rewarded for it, which is at the end of the day, the ultimate goal, that God wanted to reward us. So we can only get rewarded if we're making proper choices, and we only make proper choices if it's difficult, and it wouldn't be difficult if God was making miracles all over the place. If every time you did a good deed, suddenly, $1,000 would appear in your hand. Wow, it'd be amazing. Here, let's try it out. I'm going to make a blessing right now. It's an amazingly good deed. And by the way, a very easy one. I highly encourage all of you to try to make one blessing a day, right? It doesn't cost anything. It's really cheap. It's about 12 words. And it's an amazing good deed. Here, I will demonstrate. Exhibit A. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh bidvaro. Nothing there. No $1,000. I feel better about my life, to be honest with you. I feel more blessed because I recognize that this is an amazing gift and was given to me. So I feel better about myself, but there's no $1,000 in my hand. If there was, would anybody in this room have a moral dilemma? Should I start making blessings or not? No, right? You make a blessing, $1,000, right? You're short on your mortgage, just make another blessing, $1,000. But because there's no $1,000, and people are like, well, I haven't been making blessings my whole life. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. I don't know. It's very easy, but on the other hand, I'm not familiar with the language. It's changed in my life. You know, some people may, from this group, say, I'm going to go home. I'll start making a blessing once a day. Some people say, no, you know what? That's not for me. It's a moral dilemma that you face because there's no $1,000 being dropped off in your hand every time you make a blessing. On the other hand, let's talk about the negatives. Let's say, for example, every time I gossiped, suddenly my nose grew 2 inches, Pinocchio style, right? Well, first of all, it would be very hard to walk around in the community because everyone's noses would be, 40 feet, 50 feet long, and you'd be, bumping into people's noses. Maybe they would fold up, like you'd have like a little network going up. You'd have to like put it into like a bun or something, But imagine if your nose grew 2 inches every time you said gossip about somebody else. There would not be a lot of gossip talking. And there would be a lot more plastic surgeons performing rhinoplasty. But you would not speak gossip that often. The results would be so manifestly clear that you would have no choice. You're not going to do that. God, in order to enable us to have moral choices, which again is the goal of the world, that there should be these beings that have moral choices and should struggle of them to do the right thing or not do the right thing. And then if they choose right, I can reward them, which is really what God wants to do at the end of the day, just hook us up. But if he gave it to us for free, we wouldn't feel enjoyment and pleasure out of us. Because at the end of the day, if you're given stuff for free your whole life, you don't appreciate it. You don't feel good about it. You feel rotten about yourself. So God said the best good that I can give to mankind is earned good. And the only way they can earn it is if it's difficult. Therefore, I'm going to make this world a place of moral challenges. There will be times where someone will see something that looks so good. They'll be working for a company, and if they just literally put like a little comma and a zero over here, they'll end up with an extra $10,000. So the company's supposed to pay them $1,000, but the company's flush with cash. No one's even looking over the books. I just add a zero. $10,000. They're not going to notice. Trust me, they're not going to notice. And I need the money really badly. I've got a child with special needs. We've got to pay for special tutoring. Tough call. It's so easy, and they're not going to miss the money. And besides, my boss mistreats us for years. He's been paying us, below standard wages for our job, and the guy's rotten. He's got all this money. He doesn't need it. What's he going to do with it? Go buy his wife another mink coat so they can kill another 100 minks in the tundra? No. Let me save them. I'm putting out like the moral underpinnings of this conversation the guy might have in his head. I want to save that family from killing another 100 minks. I'll just take the $10,000. No one's going to notice anyway. Trust me. And I need it. My kid's got special needs. And he needs tutoring. And I need that money. It's a mitzvah. As a matter of fact, it's a mitzvah! There we go, right? Look how the rationalization can go from like, well, I probably shouldn't steal, to like, no. It's a mitzvah. I'm saving the lives of all those poor little minks in Russia, and I'm providing for a child with special needs, and you know what? They don't give enough charity, the family I work for. It's like I'm giving it for them. I'm hooking them up. I'm doing them the greatest favor. What they're not willing to do, I'm going to do for them, and they're going to be so appreciative in the next world. Boom, right? Comes to a nice, neat little package. And when you're really desperate and you really need that money, maybe it looks like I can do this. Now, every time you stole, there would be a huge, hanging, sign over your head. No matter where you walked, it would just miraculously go with you saying, thief, thief, thief. No one would steal. But because there's not going to be that, I might steal. And then if I don't steal, I deserve to be rewarded. If I was truly tempted to steal, and I pulled back, I said, no, Leiby, it's immoral because God said don't steal. And no matter what the rationalizations are, no matter what the money is going to be used, if they have it, and if they're not going to notice, and if my child, it doesn't make a difference. God said do not steal. I can't steal. And I don't make that. I don't do that. I get rewarded for that. It was an incredible effort, and I did the right thing because God said so. Now, if we had miracles all over the place, we would have no free will. So God hides himself. Now, God is not going to do miracles, but he might give us a little bit of blessing. Maybe if you do the right things, you have a good crop the next year. It doesn't directly link back. No one will know necessarily for sure it's because you did a righteous thing. Maybe one year it's a tough year and you're debating, should I give my regular tithing this year or not? And you decide, yes, I'm going to give it. And maybe God rewards you the next year. There's a lot of bracha. So your field has a bumper crop. Or your store, your retail store, you sell, clothing. And suddenly all these new customers start coming in and loving your stuff. And you have an amazing year the next year. It's not directly linked back to the good deed that you did. It's blessing. It's not a miracle. God was much more quick to do blessings because it doesn't force him to come out of hiding. Are you guys with me? You understand what I'm saying? You guys with me? Yeah? Are you with me? Okay, good. Right? So again, the idea is that God wants to hook us up, but if it would be blatant, then we would lose our free will. So often bracha works better than nace. That's why we always give each other brachas. You should have success. You should have, but in a way of bracha. Like that, there should be a lot from a little. Okay. What does the word bet mean? House. Very good. And as a matter of fact, the reason why bet is the same word for house and for the word bracha is that in Judaism we believe that the bracha, the blessing in someone's life comes from the house, not from the place of business. Do you know that the Talmud says that the person's blessing comes to their house through the wife? And the wife is sometimes described as the bayit, as the home. She is the home. She's the one who really gives the strength and the backbone to the home. The blessing of a house comes through the wife. So you have this guy who's this hotshot lawyer, making $350,000 a year, and he thinks that, I'm the guy who's hooking the family up. The reality is, it's his wife who's hooking the family up. The blessing of the house comes through the wife. The bracha comes through the bet, through the bayit, through the house, through the wife, who is the strength and the power of that house. It also, by the way, the shape is very telling in what a true house is supposed to look like. And this speaks to one of today's greatest challenges. How many entrances are there in the house? No, one. In and out. You look at the letter Aleph, for example, right? Aleph, there's lots of entrances. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? The letter Bet has one entrance. Things come in, things go out, one entrance. Our homes are not supposed to be porous. Today, one of the greatest challenges our generation is facing is the fact that people have very porous homes because information is being sent in and out from every hole possible, meaning our houses are they're just through the waves. I mean, literally through radio waves and Wi-Fi. It's amazing. You can be sitting in your house, in your room, and letting the world know that you status update. Just got into another fight with John. Why doesn't he get it? Whose business is that? Whose business? Do you know how many people put up tweets or status updates or whatever it is about things that are going on in their home that have absolutely no place in the public sphere? And by the way, here we go, you guys got me on a little bit of soapbox over here. It's not just the bad things that are going on in your home. If you're having trouble with your husband or your wife, it's absolutely no one's business. At all. At all. It should never, ever be tweeted or posted. Even the blessing in your house. Your kid does well on a test. Gets a 98. Oh, you post a picture on Facebook of your kid, beautiful little kid, the semi-toothless grin, he's in 2nd or 3rd grade, and he's holding a test that says 97 with a big star. also not everyone's business in the world. It's also not everyone's business. Just keep it in the house. Keep it in your buy it. You don't need to be broadcasting what's going on in your house to the whole world. It's one thing if you have a chat with your family, a WhatsApp chat, and you want to show your family one of your kids did well. It's your family members. They should get nachas from their nieces and nephews, and maybe they don't live in the same place. That's an amazing thing we have today, right? The ability to communicate with people all over the world, family members who would never see their kids and now can see videos and pictures of their nieces, their nephews. That's a beautiful thing, bringing families together. But to put that stuff out in the world, like you have to really take every family photo when you're on vacation and show the world, like, oh, look, we're having such an amazing time here in Cancun, or whatever. It's nobody's business. Keep it in the house. It's in the buy it. That's why the Bays has that one entrance. And that's why today, I think, in this generation, there's a unique challenge to the structure of the home that has never been there before. Okay. Fascinatingly also, by the way, when Balaam, the non-Jewish prophet, came to curse the Jews, and then he ended up having to give them blessings. It's in the book of Numbers. So he says, Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenosecha Yisrael. How goodly are your tents, Jacob, your abodes, Israel. What was so goodly about our tents? What was so beautiful about our houses that this prophet has to say, oh wow, you got really nice tents. Like, what do we have, like custom designed 2,500 square foot tents with granite and jacuzzis? Like what was it that he noticed about our tents that was so remarkable? What he noticed about our tents that was so remarkable is that you have hundreds of thousands of families camped out in the desert, and not a single tent's door faced another family's door. Right? If my tent's door was facing this way, my neighbor's tent's door faced that way, and his neighbor over here, their tent faced that way. Nobody was in each other's business. That was beautiful. That's what a bias is supposed to look like. Next, the letter Bays, the top, in the alphabet, the top actually protrudes up, which is recognizing that all of our bracha, all of our blessing, which is the Bays, the main letter for Bays, comes from above. Okay. The first letter in the Torah is Bays. Exactly. The first letter in the Torah is Bays. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'haaretz. Because the Torah is an instruction manual for mankind. And our job is to be a bias, to be a house, to be a place where we build things up. The word Bays also is bonet, to build up. When you have a house that has the proper boundaries, the people inside feel safe and can be built up. It's almost like an incubation chamber. It's safe. It's a safe space. The word, here's something fascinating. Our job is to be a Bays. The Bays, again, is closely linked to the female. We said the woman is sort of called the house. She is the strength of the house. Let's talk about a very important topic. In the Siddur, in the Jewish prayer book, is God described as a male or a female? He. With the exception of one name of God, which is Shekhinah, or maybe, no, there's another one. There's another one or two. Of the many names of God, God is always referred to as a He. Now, certain people who unfortunately just have no understanding of the depth of Judaism found that as an affront. So they re-engineered the Siddur, and they changed the Siddur to either make God into this amorphous, gender-neutral without a sort of a indicator whether God is male or female, so to speak. And some people have made Siddurs where they interchange it. Sometimes God is described as he, and sometimes God is described as she. Right? Sounds fair, right? Yeah, we're all about the power of women. But let's understand why God is referred to as a he, and then maybe we'll understand there's a really deep idea here, and it's got nothing to do with the fact that it was men who wrote the Siddur, so they made God a he. No. It's a very deep understanding of what the male and what the female pole in this world represent? Here we go. If you want to understand what male and female represents in Judaism, we can always look at the physical world. The physical world is a manifestation of a deeper spiritual world inside. And the place that we would find the greatest difference between males and females, right, is in their sort of roles, especially in the area of reproduction. That's where it really comes to the most concentrated difference. Males and females each have a power, a plus and a minus. They each have something that's a very positive thing, so to speak, but then also something that's limiting. The male's power is that he can create enormous amounts of energies. Millions of them, as a matter of fact. Literally millions. The male body can synthesize 5 million energies, and then half an hour later synthesize 5 million new energies. That's the power of the male, this enormous creative energy. However, the drawback of the male is that all those energies are described as like the smallest thing in space and time. Each little cell, right, is tiny, it's meaningless, and it'll die on its own in a very quick amount of time. So while the male can create an enormous amount of energies, those energies are very, very short-lived, okay, and not able to do much. The female is not the creative one. Matter of fact, in her entire life, she will not create any new cells in that area. When she's born, she has a certain amount of cells, and at a certain point, she starts to express them in her cycle, and then when she's finished, she's done. She does not have the ability. Her body does not synthesize new cells. However, what she has, that's the drawback. She's lacking that ability to create newness. However, what she has is an amazing power, which is that she can take with her cell, she can take in something else, that energy, the other energy from the male, which comes in as this tiny, little, microscopic nothing, and she can build it up and produce a human being with nails and kidneys and toes and veins and brains. I mean, it's unreal! What was given to her? A tiny cell! A tiny little cell, the smallest thing in space and time. And what does she produce? A human being! I remember there was a woman I saw, she was wearing a t-shirt. It says, "My superpower is that I create human beings. What's yours?" Right? My superpower is that I create human beings. What's yours? So, in more sort of mystical, Kabbalistic terms, what that would be described is that the male energy is the creative energy, and the female energy is the building energy. And the female is able to build up, the male is the more creative. And by the way, it's fascinating to find, if you look at professions, you look at, what are the professions that women are often attracted to? Go, you tell me. Nursing, teaching. When you say teaching, though, it's very specific. It's not just teaching, because when you get to like high school or college, there's a lot of male teachers. They're the ones who choose to teach early education, nursery, preschool, first, second, third grade.
I had a man.
You had a man. Okay, that's fine. But I can tell you that of the teachers who go to teachers' college who are looking to do preschool, there are very few male preschool teachers. I don't know of, I personally don't know of a single male preschool teacher. You know of a lot of them?
Yeah.
Name me 5.
They taught next door to me, I know.
Okay, I'm just saying, if you could name me 5, I'd be impressed. I'm not trying to disagree with you. I'm just saying it's incredibly rare to find male preschool teachers. A preschool teacher is very different than a college professor. A college professor is like a very, you have all this knowledge and you produce papers and you publish them, and it's like a very kind of like prestigious thing, whatever. Preschool teachers are these amazing human beings who are literally building and nurturing children. It's an extraordinary thing. Nursing. Doctors and nurses, very, very different. Doctors, it's prestigious. You diagnose and you this and that. Nurses are the ones who are really caring. My wife's a nurse. My wife's a nurse. She's an amazingly caring person. And when she chose her profession, she said, I want to help nurture people back to health. And who's doing the vast majority of the nurturing in the hospital? It's not the doctor. The doctor's coming in, prescribing medications, looking over the person, maybe talking to the patient for 20 minutes.
Women weren't allowed in med school.
That's part of the reason.
I'm not talking about doctors. I'm talking about nurses. Today, nurses, men and women are both available at nursing school, and yet the vast majority of nurses today are female. Now you're going to tell me you had a male teacher, you had a male nurse. I'm just telling you, look at the stats. The stats are the vast majority of people who choose to be nurses. Doctors are both male and female today. Right.
Today, not.
Okay.
Not 20 years ago.
That's true. It's not 20 years ago. Yes?
I was concerned, Kabbalistically, isn't God considered both male and female?
So in his religion, God is neither male nor female. Right? God doesn't have, he has no organs. He has no body. Right. So Kabbalistically, we're going to see the way we cannot break God down into any single thing, male, female. The way we talk about him is how God interacts with us. That's why God has many names, right? There are certain names that represent kindness. There are certain names that represent discipline. It's different ways we experience God interacting with us. And we're going to see that the vast majority of the time, God is interacting with us as the male, and we'll get to that in a moment. Now again, okay, social workers. I'm a social worker, by the way. I'm a male. However, I can tell you that often in social work school, I was the only male in the class. Maybe I had one other male in the class, maybe 30 people in the class, me and one other guy, and the rest of them were females. Because social workers are very nurturing. It's a very nurturing profession. Women, and now again, see, I'll tell you something, I'm going to speak frankly. Here's something fascinating when I talk about, it's very hard to talk about women and men and differences in our society, but I can tell you this much. Whenever I talk about women and talk about the positive attributes of women, people are like, they're all, yeah, hallelujah. If I ever talk about the fact that there's positive and negative, there's positives and drawbacks to each side, it's amazing. Women who are very happy to own the positive sides of female traits are not as, it's as if like women are super. They only have positive and no negative. Let's be real. Let's own what the differences between male and females are, right? So women are more nurturing, and they have this enormous sense of building up the world. They build up their families. They build up the world. They're nurturing and caring and emotional and giving. Now men have more creative energies. If you look at what's being invented in the world, the vast majority of inventions are coming out of men. That's a reality. And you're going to say, well, women are discouraged from going to STEM. Women today are actually encouraged to go to STEM. To go to STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And if they apply to STEM programs, they get in even with much lower scores because we're trying to encourage more women to go into STEM. Somehow, as much as we encourage it, women are not necessarily as attracted. Now again, are there women in STEM? Yes, there are. But we're talking about the vast majority. The vast majority of people in these areas of like creative, intense, creative powers are men. That's a fact. You can dispute. I mean, you can tell me that it's because of generations of putting down the women. Okay, but we've gone past that a long time ago, and women today are encouraged to go in STEM, and yet they're choosing nursing over engineering, generally speaking. That's a reality. I'm sorry. Anyway, STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay, the vast majority of computer programmers are men, right? And you're going to say, well, there were some women and they were attacked or whatever it is. But we can go on this all day long. So I'll tell you what. Here's what I would like to do. What are men better at? Nothing. See, okay, that's kind of, I'm just saying. So there you go. I really appreciate you saying that because it just brings home my point. If you are the kind of person that thinks that women are greater at everything and men are better at nothing, then that's an imbalance. You've just actually proved yourself to be. You're having an imbalanced perspective on mankind. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad tidings.
Well, that's your opinion.
My opinion. That's right. Because I'm worse at everything. And one of my opinions is that we should have balanced appreciations of both men and women. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right?
I have a master's in math, but I couldn't get into the College of Engineering when I was in school, and I couldn't get into the business college because they didn't allow women back then when I was going to college.
Well,
the
first
only
of all,
way I could have been an accountant was to go to Welsh, and I couldn't afford it. So I have a master's in math, and I taught math, not to little children though.
right.
I didn't like teaching little children.
Okay. And by the way, let me tell you.
Everything you said has been contrary to.
No. Okay, so I want to also describe another very important thing. There's always going to be outliers. I'm a male and I went to social work school, right?
So did my brother-in-law.
There you go. So there's going to be outliers. There are masculine women and there are feminine men, right? You see what I'm saying? Meaning
I'm not
they're
very masculine.
okay. All right, but you got a degree in math and you're creative, and I appreciate that. So I'm not saying everyone's going to. I'm not. Here's the bottom line, guys. We're talking overall trends. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Let's appreciate the fact that men and women are not the same. If you are the belief that men and women are totally exactly the same in personality, in makeup, in understanding, or if you're of the belief that women are better than men at everything and men are just worse at everything, then there's not really much for us. There's not an enormous amount of common ground over here.
Okay,
Yeah.
women have like 115 hormones.
Okay.
Men have 15 or 16, right then and there.
Okay. And thank God for that, because women are the most nurturing group on the planet. And I'm glad that there are women. Because if not, we would have a bunch of aggressive males. That's what we would have. All battling each other out. I don't like a world where there's just women. Just men, I'm sorry. It's a bad place. Okay? So I'm ready to own that. I'm ready to talk. But let's just recognize that if you want to describe that women have an advantage in a certain area, be ready to also recognize that men have an advantage. But let's if you agree, if you don't agree, that's fine. I'm just going to get it out there, and you'll see whether you agree or not. Here we go.
Are we getting past base?
Are we getting past base today? I don't know. We're getting stuck at first base. Okay. Anyway. So the male pole is described as the creative pole. The female pole is described as the building, nurturing pole. In the physiology of humankind, that is definitely true. The male side creates new energy all the time. The female side cannot, but the female side is able to nurture things and take it from tiny nothing to everything. In this world, the way that God interacts with us, generally speaking, is He is the male and we are the female. What does that mean? God creates everything for us. We can't create trees. We can replant them, or we can use previous types of trees to genetically modify and create new species and new strains. We can't create water. Again, we can take ingredients that are already there and manipulate them. God creates the world. Everything in this world, every apple, every bison, everything out there, even us human beings, are very small in the scope of space and time. If you think of the vastness of the universe, and you think of the smallness of this cup of water is nothing in the scope of space and time. It exists for a little while. It's going to evaporate out if I leave it here. And if I don't, I can put it in a bottle, it'll last a little bit longer. In terms of space, this thing is tiny. The world is trillions of light years big. However, here's an amazing thing. I take this cup of water, and I make a blessing over it, and I think about that blessing. And I use that blessing as a vehicle through my appreciation to God for creating H2O, which is an amazing, we can talk about H2O for an hour, and we would never get off of base, for sure. We can talk about the amazingness of H2O. And I take this cup of water, I say, wow, God, thank you so much for creating H2O. You use it to sustain me. 66% of my body is made up of this stuff. And it's amazing. It's remarkable. Thank you. I can drink a cup of water sometimes. I myself, I know my experience. I'm frequently thirsty. And sometimes when I'm parched, I feel low energy. And then I'll take a large cup of water, a 20-ounce cup of water, and I'll drink it. And I literally, within like a minute, I feel like a flower that's just suddenly been given water. And it's like, it goes from wilting to like coming alive. I feel that in myself. I take this little cup of water and I say, thank you, God, for making this water for me. I really, really appreciate it. And through this cup of water, I now develop a deeper relationship with God. I just took something that was the smallest thing in space and time and connected it and created it into something so much bigger than it ever was. This is now a vehicle for my connection to God, which will hopefully make me a better person and give more charity and be more appreciative to my wife because I'm a more thankful person. The smallest thing in space and time just became something huge. And who made it into something huge? Me. Again, God created water, smallest thing in space and time. I took it and used it to create a bigger relationship between me and God and become a more appreciative person, which means I'll be better to my wife, my kids. I just took something that's tiny and made it huge. I'm the builder, he's the creator. The vast majority of our interactions with God is where he creates something and we respond, and we're supposed to respond by building it up and making it something so much greater. Whether it's a difficulty that God sends our way or a blessing that God sends our way. Let's say God sends me the blessing of money. He creates a form, an avenue for me to make cash, right? And I now have an extra $10,000 in my bank account. What is $10,000? The smallest thing in space and time. But if I use that to help a local family that's struggling to pay their heating bills in the winter, or I use it to help an organization in Israel that distributes milk to parents who simply do not have enough money to give formula to their children, if I use it to sponsor a class where people are going to study and become better people, I just took that money, which was the smallest thing in space and time, $1,000, $10,000, and I made it into something huge and eternal. I built it. He created it. I built it. Hence, the relationship between God and the Jewish people is often described as a relationship between a male and a female. Him being the male who creates us, creates the energies that we have in our lives, and we being the people who are here to build it up and make it into something huge. Okay. That is why, generally speaking, in the Siddur, God is referred to as a male, not as a female. There is one primary name of God, which is the female, which is Shekhinah, and that is representative of sort of the expression, the experience that we feel with God, where we do things and God responds and builds it up. Where we create a new energy in the world by doing a good deed or whatever it is, and God builds it up by turning it into a great blessing for the whole city or whatever it is. That's Shekhinah, the concept of sort of how God ends up relating to us as a result of our initial input. All right, so Aleph and Bet. The Bet represents the feminine side, the blessing. I've said so many good things about women today. I'm sorry. I hope you guys will be happy. You guys are the blessing of the house. The Bet is also representative of the womb. It's where the baby comes in and goes out. It's the blessing. It's going from a little to a lot. It's the ability to nurture things and build them up, boneh, from tiny to big. It is our primary relationship with God, which is why the Torah starts with the Bet. And that is the letter Bet. Let's see what time we got. Okay. We're going to move on to letter Gimel. Okay. Alrighty. Gimel. Erase this Bet over here. Okay. Gimel. What does the word Gimel mean? The word Gimel comes from the word Gomel, which means to wean. If you look at source number, whatever it is in your sheets, 11 you said?
Yeah, Genesis 21.
Genesis 21, very good. Yep. Vayigdal hayeled vayigamal. The child grew and was weaned. Vayas Avraham mishteh gadol b'yom higamel es Yitzchak. And Abraham made a big feast on the day that Yitzchak was weaned. You see that word gamal right in there? Gimel? To wean is where you take care of somebody until they're able to not need you anymore, so to speak, and be able to fend for themselves, so to speak. The word gemilut chasadim, doing acts of kindness, right? You've heard that word before, gemilut chasadim, doing acts of kindness is where you help somebody out, and the highest level of gemilut chasadim is where you help them out until they don't need your help anymore. Maimonides lists 8 different levels of charity. Maimonides lists meaning 8 levels of what kind of charity is best. The highest level, well, anonymous is one of the, meaning the lowest level is where you give it with a frown, like, right? You're like, wow, here, take your money, whatever. You know, like, it's embarrassing to you, it's embarrassing to the person, it's just terrible, right? And then you go up to different levels of it. There's also different levels of anonymity. There's where you know who you're giving it to, so when you see him walking by in shul, you can be like, yeah, I took care of that guy. And but he doesn't know who gave it to him. There's a level where he knows who he's getting it from, but you don't know who you're giving it to. So you give it to some rabbi, and you don't know where it's going, but the rabbi's going to tell Bob, hey Bob, you know, Leiby gave me some money, I'm giving it to you. So now when he sees me, he feels a little uncomfortable, but I don't know who he is, so I don't get to feel that, I took care of him. And then there's higher level, double anonymity, whereas you have no idea who it's going to, and they have no idea who it's coming from, right? Which is great, that's the highest level of anonymity. But no one feels uncomfortable at all. But the highest level of charity, according to Maimonides, is where you help somebody get a job. You teach them a skill.
Teach them to fish.
Teach him to fish, exactly. Teach a man to fish. Or you give him a loan so he can get his business started. Or you give him a loan so he can go to school and get a degree so he can support himself. That's the highest level. That's gemilut chasadim. That's where you're weaning him. You're not, you take care of him, you give him what he needs until a certain point where he no longer needs you. He was vayigamal, he was weaned. He's now able to stand on his own. He no longer needs to be reliant on other people.
That's why we all support Or
That's just what
Amazing, right? There you go. What is Or? Do they teach vocations and trades and education? It's an amazing thing. That's the highest level of charity. Okay, what do you think is greater and why? Charity or acts of kindness? And why?
Kindness, because it includes charity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
good.
Everybody is capable of giving kindness, but some people may be in a financial position where they can't give charity.
Excellent. Anybody else? Okay, so by the way, these two answers that we got, the Talmud lists 3 ways, right? The first one is that charity can be done only with your money, basically, whereas kindness can be done with a whole host of things. You can give somebody your ear, and they listen to them when they're in pain and suffering, and you've done an amazing kindness. Let's say you have a friend, they may be very wealthy, they don't need any of your money, but they're in pain, and you give them your ear, and you listen to them, and you're there for them. That's an amazing act of kindness. So the first answer is kindness includes a whole host of ways to be kind, whereas charity is with money. So charity is much more limited in that way. The other answer is, like you were saying, a poor person may not be able to give charity, but everybody can do acts of kindness for each other. And lastly, this is a very interesting one, is charity you can only do for somebody while they're alive, but chesed you can do after they're passed away, meaning by burying them or taking care of them. That's called chesed shel emes, the highest level of kindness, because you know you're never getting anything back from them. Right? If someone passes away in the community, they have no money for their funeral, and you go there and you bury, like actually, one of the things that I do a lot is when I go to a funeral, I work very hard to make sure that there's a proper laying down of the earth on top of the grave. Often what happens is the family will be there, there'll be a wheelbarrow, people will put a couple shovelfuls, and the family leaves, and then basically a backhoe comes, So like I try, one of the things I try to do very hard is just try, when I'm at a funeral, to say, if you can get the people from the cemetery to leave the ground here, I'll usually get a couple people together and we'll put the earth in a respectful manner back on top of the grave, so it's not just being dumped on by a backhoe. So like no one ever came back from the grave to repay me for an act of kindness. No one ever came back and said, "Oh, Leiby, thank you for making a very respectful final procession for me in this world, and here's some kind of gift," right? So that's kindness that you can do for somebody even after they've passed away. Okay. The gimel is shaped a little bit like a camel, right? Here's the legs, the long neck, the head right over here, right? As a matter of fact, the word camel in Hebrew is gamal, right?
That's a giraffe.
Right? It's a
What's
giraffe.
the word for giraffe?
Giraffa. That's the Hebrew word for giraffe. I don't know what it was called biblically, but
So it starts with a gimel.
yeah, but it's a modern Hebrew word. It's not from the Hebrew. Yeah. Anyway, so this is a camel, and what does a camel do? A camel helps us get through the difficult part until we can stand on our own, right? We can't make it through the desert on our own. It's too difficult. So the camel carries us through the desert and gets us to the other side where we can continue on our own and follow that life.
So Nasser's first name was Camel?
Who?
Nasser's first name.
Yeah, Gamal. Yeah. He was a camel. No, I mean his name was Camel in Hebrew. Okay. Fascinatingly, we read a passage last week about emulating God. Do you guys remember that? We read just like He's kind. So you remember that? Here, let's read it again. And look at it was source number 10, Rav Chama, the son of Chanina, said, what does the verse mean, you shall walk after the Lord your God? Is it possible for a human being to walk after the Shekhinah? For has it not been said that the Lord your God is devouring fire? But the meaning is to walk after the attributes of the Holy One, blessed be He. Just as He clothes the naked, so too you. And there's the verse there. Just as He visits the sick, and there's the verse there, so too you should visit the sick. Just like He comforted the mourners, there's a verse there, so too you should comfort the mourner. Just like He buries the dead, so too you should bury the dead. If you notice, all the things that it says when describing how we should walk after God are acts of kindness. Isn't that fascinating? God does a lot of things. But when describing what we should do to try to emulate God, every single one of those examples, clothing the naked, burying the dead, visiting the sick, comforting mourners, these are all acts of kindness. This is sort of, in certain ways, a very much of a high point in Judaism. So that is what the Gimel represents. There's a story of two brothers. The two brothers lived, they were neighbors, and there was like a sort of a little hill in between them. Now one of the brothers was married and had a large family, he had 10 children. The other brother was a lifelong bachelor. He had never gotten married, never had any children. One night, the brother, who's a lifelong bachelor, and they both were neighbors, they both had roughly even-sized farms next door to each other. One night, the brother, who's the lifelong bachelor, sitting there thinking, he's like, my brother Bob, it's tough. He's got to feed 10 kids. That's a lot of work, and it's a lot of mouths to feed. And me, I only have to feed one mouth. Why don't I go bring him a couple bales of wheat? So he's like, you know what? It's the middle of the night, but I just thought of this amazing idea. So he puts on he has that nightgown. Remember from the old pictures, like the nightgown, the guy with the cap and the nightgown and the lantern. And he goes outside, and he takes 2 big bales of wheat, throws them over his shoulder, carries them up the hill, down the hill to his brother's farm, drops them off. Goes to bed, big smile on his face. He wakes up the next morning, and he comes back. And he's like remembering his good deed. He helped his brother out last night. He feels good about it. Comes out to his field and he starts counting because he's pretty certain he did this. He's like, I hope I wasn't dreaming. But he counts the amount of bales of wheat in his field. It's exactly the same as it was before he went to bed. He's like, wait, was that did I not do that? Was that just a dream? That is so strange. Now what he did not know is that same night, his brother was sitting on the other side, and his brother was tossing and turning in bed. And his brother was thinking, me, I've got 10 kids. When I retire, they're all going to take care of me. My brother, he has no kids. Who's going to take care of him? He needs to really sock away a nice IRA. I'm going to help him out. I'll bring him a couple bales of wheat. So the brother with the 10 kids, he put on his nightgown with the lantern and the big cap, and he went down there and he picked up 2 big bales of wheat, brings it up the mountain, down the mountain, drops it off his brother's side. The next night, the story repeats itself. The bachelor brother tries to bring stuff over to him, and the other one brings it. And they come back the next day, and both of them, they count their wheat. They got the same. What is going on? They're like, this is crazy. I can't be dreaming it twice in a row. On the third night, the two of them are meet right as they get to the top of the hill. And they see each other, and they quickly understand exactly what happened. And the two brothers tearfully embrace. What a beautiful story of kindness, of loving and of giving. And God looked down from on high and said, that's where I want my temple to be. And that little hill is Temple Mount. God said, I want my bias, I want my home to be built on that foundation of kindness. And that is what Gemilut Chasadim is all about. And with that, we conclude the Gimel, and indeed we conclude our session for today. Thank you very much. Go women!